Well, guys, listen. We are at the end of the Matchlock gun. We're done. But I'm going to give you a sort of a conclusion to the story. We have a couple of chapters that we have to finish, but I'm going to put it in my own words and sort of lead you through the story. At this point, we already know that Gertrude was very afraid of the Indians coming. And it's at this part of the story that Gertrude is confronted by those Indians. And so she's trying to hide. She's trying to do everything to stay out of sight. And suddenly she feels or hears the sound of something coming towards her. It might have sounded like this. And what it was an Indian tomahawk. And it's kind of like an axe. And it hit the door. And so she finally gives Edward the signal. Does anybody remember what the signal was for Edward? He was going to light the candle and he was going to light that gun, the fuse on the gun. Well, guns back then, guys, had to have gunpowder. And there was a little fuse that you would light and it would sort of sizzle and then it would go off, right? It wasn't really like bullets, like we know bullets. And so she gives him the order and he picks up that gun and he goes to light it up. And he fires that thing and it knocks him straight off the chair. It is so powerful. And so he's on the floor and he's wondering what is going on. And as he crawls and looks, he can see Gertrude on the floor and he thinks that she's dead, that she's gone. And so this is happening and we get to the end where the militia, the soldiers return and they save the day, so to speak, right? They save the day. What I want to do to end this video is I want to go back actually to what is known as the foreword of the book. And the foreword is actually going to sort of give you a little bit of an idea what happened to Gertrude. So let's read the foreword of the book and then we're done. You guys did fantastic, by the way. You did fantastic. Here we go. Perhaps you would like to know the rest of the lullaby that Gertrude Van Alsten sings in this story. It's a real old Dutch song, and lots of mothers sang it to their children up and down the Hudson Valley and in and around Albany in 1757. That's a long time ago, guys. This is when New York State was still a British colony, when the French were still leading the Indians out of Canada against the settlers. And when the raid that came all the way to Guilderland, just outside of Albany City, took place. This is the way that the song goes. You know what? I'm not going to even try and read it in the Dutch language. I'm going to read it in the translation that they give, okay? This is the translation. Up and down on a little throne, mother's knee, father's knee. The pigs are in the beans. The cows are in the clover. The colts are in the stable. The calf is in the long grass. The ducks are in the pond. So big my little baby was. And this was the song that she would sing. The Van Alstens were real people. Teunis was a Dutchman, as most of the early settlers around Albany were. His wife Gertrude was a Palatine, which meant that her people originally came from the small states called the Palatine, along the upper part of the River Rhine in Germany. Their lands were devastated by war. They were politically persecuted by both French and Germans, and they left their homes going first to Holland and then to England. We've been learning about Holland and England in our class, okay? Now, finally, they came to America because they wanted to be free. They wanted to have that freedom. They mingled well with the Dutch, except for a few crusty specimens like the widow Van Alsten, who felt contempt for anyone who happened to be very poor, right? She didn't like poor people, and that's never a good thing, guys. We can never look down on people who don't have what we have. That's not good. And now you may think that it's strange that the story of this raid in Guilderland should have been preserved down to the present day because of plump Trudy and not through anything Edward ever did. Trudy became known as the greatest and the best spinster in the Helderbergs. Even after she married and became Trudy Hoggle, she was still known as the best spinster. A spinster is someone who spins because her mother's shoulder was crippled by the Indian's tomahawk. Trudy was taught to spin at the age of 6 and was soon good enough to do all the spinning for her family. She became so unusually good and her spinning was so unusually fine that her descendants told their children about Trudy Hoggle from generation to generation. Her story lives on even after she's gone all these years. That's incredible. Well, that's incredible. Okay? And so the story of the Matchlock gun is something that is timeless. And here's what I would encourage you, that as you're reading books and as you're living your life, I know some of you are small and you're getting bigger and you're growing and you're learning, that you also would have a story that would become timeless. That as you grow up, you would tell your story of your family and the great things that they have done and maybe the hard things that they've gone through, but it made you stronger because of those hard times. Just like this is going to make us stronger as Americans because of this hard time that we're going through right now. We have a story to tell. And the greatest stories are found in books, guys. So don't forget to read. Reading. Let me say this. Leaders read. And I know all of you are leaders. I want to encourage you to continue to read those books. All right? We finished the book, guys. That's fantastic. And you sat through it. All right? We finished the Matchlock gun. And so we're going to be coming back tomorrow with some different things. But then next week, we're going to start another book and go on another adventure. All right? So thank you for sitting. We're in my little spot. We're by the rug. And you've been listening to the story of the Matchlock gun. All right? Grace and peace. I will talk to you a little later on today as we leave. Don't forget to get those assignments done. God bless, guys.